start. Так, құрметті әріптестер, время идет. Итак, мы с опозданием начинаем. Поэтому сегодня спасибо, что пришли на работу 4 секцияның экономикалық капитал деп аталады бұл. Бұл жерде модераторлар Бехуда Кахани, Акиров атындағы бизнес және қоршаған ортаны қорғау институтының директоры, Тель-Авив университеті Израиль, менің жанымда отыр. Екінші мен, Ғалымдар одағының төрағасы академик Оразалы Шабден. Бұнда екі баяндама тыңдалады. Ары қарай дискуссияға көшеміз. Жаңа естіңіздер, перспектива қалай болу керек, соның айналасында жұмыс жасасақ. Біздің де секцияның ауқымын кеңейту керек. Потому что экономика – это базис, экономический капитал – основа всего, вся интеллектуальный капитал, человеческий капитал, социальный капитал, какие хотите капиталы, капиталом делает условия, это прежде всего экономический капитал. Поэтому большое внимание к этой секции. Я хотел бы предоставить слово Роберту Хоффману. Бұл үлкен компанияның президенті және бірлескен құрылтайшысы Канадада. Роберт Хоффман, вам, пожалуйста, слово.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your kind introduction. I was given a very difficult task to address the subject of capital and economic capital. There were two ways that I could have gone with this. One was to deconstruct those terms, economics, economy, and to deconstruct the idea of capital. That would be a long presentation, and I decided to take another tact. In fact, because those two words are part and parcel of the economic paradigm, which in my mind is the paradigm that we need to change. And if we trap ourselves into using the words of the old paradigm, we cannot grasp the ideas of the new paradigm. So what I thought I would do is start off with a quotation which reads, "If you have them asking the wrong questions, you don't have to worry about the right answers." This is a quotation from Thomas Pynchon, an American author who wrote Gravity's Rainbow. The hypothesis that I would like to explore is that the conventional economic thinking leads us to ask the wrong questions about the transition of an economy that is clearly unsustainable. That's what a great deal of this conference has been about, is to identify the challenges associated that we face today, largely because we are on a path that is unsustainable. And of course we want to make the transition to an economy, broadly speaking, that is sustainable. So typically the first question that we've asked is, how much will it cost to make this transition? Then we can add, do we have enough money to make the transition? And do the benefits of making the transition outweigh the costs of doing so? And then typically we say, can we afford to do this? And finally, we say, how do we correct the market imperfections that have prevented markets from functioning properly and from finding the optimal allocation of resources that they are supposed to do? Now, I'm prepared to argue that these questions and the effort spent trying to answer them is misplaced because they all belong within the existing economic paradigm. And so I would suggest that the more appropriate questions to be asked are, first of all, are there physically coherent pathways starting from where we are that lead us to a sustainable and harmonious relationship between our species and the Earth systems of which our species is an integral part? Then if the answer to that is yes, that there are pathways that are coherent, the next question is how do we choose which pathway to put our system on? And finally, the question that follows from that is, what do we have to do to put ourselves on that particular pathway? And so we end up worrying about policy after we've determined which pathway we want to be on. This seems to me to be the reverse of the procedure that we normally use. We say, what policies do we want to employ before we determine which pathway we want to be on? And I thought I would illustrate these points with a concrete example that I've been working on and is still a work in progress that will serve to illustrate these points. I come from Canada, notorious because of its lack of response to the issues of climate change, and am engaged in a project that is a private initiative, clearly because our government is not very interested in this particular set of issues. And the idea of the project is to find a pathway for the evolution of the Canadian energy system that can achieve a transition from a carbon-based energy economy to one that is very low carbon. And by very low carbon, I mean less than 20% of 1990 levels. So this is a transition that is a major transition. And in order to analyze this transition, we posed the questions that I've just outlined. So the first thing we did, and this shows my particular bias and where I come from. My background is that we build systems models and custom systems models. And so we built a model that was designed in order to start with the present and then calculate evolution paths depending upon choices that we might make. Choices that we might make with respect to the deployment of new technology as the old technologies need to be displaced or as there is a requirement for additional technology over time. And pathways that are coherent with the availability of physical resources. In this instance, we're concerned about the availability of energy sources, endowments of oil and gas and so on, and as we use them, you keep track of the diminishing stocks. And of course, we have available flows of renewable energy of various kinds. And so we want an energy system that is coherent with the sources of energy, and an energy system that's also coherent with how the population and the economy may grow over time. So this is an energy system that may have to expand. So the model is designed as an open simulation model so that the user of the model can examine different pathways that are coherent both with respect to the level of the amount of energy and energy carriers that the system has to deliver, and coherent with the sources of energy that are available. This is quite a large exercise. And now we have begun to build an experiment with a number of different scenarios or pathways that we look at by changing these variables over time. There are some important lessons that came out of the scenarios, as far as I'm concerned, that in order to effect a transition of this magnitude, it became clear that there were essentially two major areas where change had to occur. First of all, you had to be worried about how you generate electricity and ensure that all electricity that is generated is done so from non-carbon sources. And that means moving away from oil, moving away from gas, and ultimately also moving away from biomass. We determined, it became clear, that biomass has no particular role to play as a source of energy. Biomass is much more valuable as a source, as a sink for carbon, and as a source of nutrition for populations. We also determined, 5 minutes, fine. We also determined that the other area where major change was required is how you power your vehicle stocks. So essentially you can think about two stocks of motor vehicles, one for passengers, and it became clear that you had to move to electricity and move very quickly to electricity that is now generated from non-carbon sources, as being the prime energy carrier to power your passenger vehicle stock. And you also had to move to, we believe, hydrogen as a fuel carrier to power heavy trucks. If you accomplish those two transitions, you can reach a very low carbon economy. The next question, of course, is what do you have to do to put yourself on that pathway? Well, there are a number of tools, of course, policy tools available. There are economic instruments, carbon taxation, cap and trade, but there are also possible regulatory interventions. And when we looked at the possible effectiveness of these interventions, it became clear that a regulatory intervention would be the easiest to administer and undoubtedly the most effective. In our country, there are probably only 20 companies that generate electricity, and it would not be and these are all regulated companies to some degree anyway, it would not be all that difficult to negotiate with each of the companies a timeline by which they would change their source of energy from which they generate electricity. And that could be handled quite neatly by regulation. On the other side, transportation vehicles, of course, transportation vehicles in every country that I know of are also regulated and registered. We know who they are, we know who owns them, and they must obey certain standards, safety standards and now efficiency standards. And it would seem to me that it would be not all that difficult to negotiate with the not very large number of companies that produce motor vehicles to negotiate a schedule whereby the new vehicles that are introduced into the stock are increasingly more appropriately powered. So that's where this kind of analysis went, and it's one of the things that we found is, and we've done this analysis without regard to cost. So we didn't try and minimize cost, because if you try and minimize cost, it implies that you have to know what the prices of things are out into a very distant future, probably 50 to 100 years into the future. And if there's one thing that we will never know, is what those prices will be. There's a huge amount of uncertainty around them. But even more importantly, the prices and institutions that are in place are things that we construct. And by and large, if we think now about the reconstruction of some institutions in order to accomplish this transition, we can make the prices be whatever we want them to be to help put us on the right pathway. And yes, indeed, we can engineer prices that will provide incentives and rationale. But in some sense, we're not relying on a market price only to make the transition. We would be relying on prices that we construct to help us make the transition and put us on the pathway that we would choose to be on. I think my 5 minutes are probably up. There's probably a lot more to discuss, and I'll welcome a conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll present myself later. I'm one of the moderators that, but our other moderator, my co-moderator, would like to present also one of his work. Then I'll present some issues for the discussions and questions, and we would like to hear many questions later on. Okay? It will be now Professor Sabden Ogazali. He is the head of the unions of scientists in Kazakhstan, and also a professor. And he would like to present some concept of the strategy of making survival in the 21st century. And please.
Спасибо. Данная концепция опубликована на 3 языках. Кого интересует и на английском, и на русском, я предоставлю. Ну, главных идеях этой концепции. Ну, эта идея у меня родилась во времена кризиса. Во время кризиса все мы думаем же. Действительно, в последнее время мир настолько изменился, что иногда не знаешь завтра, что будет. А главное сейчас, вот сегодня, вчера, завтра будем обсуждать, как выйти из кризиса и спасти человечество. И общий идти на цивилизационный путь развития. Конечно, глобальные большие изменения. Я вот недавно вопрос задал. Действительно, как потепление климата, социально-экономические и политические конфликты, катастрофы различные и так далее. Видите, все это ставит абсолютно новые задачи перед человечеством сейчас, которые раньше не решали мы. Поэтому я сейчас вопрос задал. G8, G20 не в силах сейчас решить даже. Даже устав ООН не соблюдается. И другие моменты. А вот даже региональный конфликт, проблем Украины не можем решить. Одним санкциями далеко не уедем. Если мы цивилизационно хотим развивать. Вот европейские цивилизационные страны именно свою цивилизацию должны показать, а не санкцию. Далее что? Мировые транснациональные компании управляются свыше 50% богатства экономического капитала. Вот сегодняшний предмет обсуждения. Плюс к этому идет эскалация вооружения США, Китая, России. Вооружение США более 50% всех вооружений мира. И иногда невольно задаешься вопросом, куда вообще мы идем? Куда нас ведут? И мы не знаем, куда идем, и ведущие не знают, куда ведут нас. Я имею в виду именно G8, прежде всего, начиная с США. И, думается, пришло время перемен, действительно, прежде всего в сознании людей, изменение мировой психологии, возрождение духовно-моральных ценностей, о чем мы вообще забыли. И человечеству пора навести порядок в собственном доме, покажите наш дом. Вот планетарный наш общечеловеческий дом. Вчера несколько человек приводили Эйнштейна. Я тоже хочу привести Эйнштейна. Эйнштейн говорил, нельзя решить проблем, где это происходит. Надо с другой плоскости посмотреть эту проблему. С другой координаты смотреть. Вот, пожалуйста, смотрите, я посмотрел на эту общечеловеческий дом цивилизации с космоса. Что видно с космоса? Земля и маленький домик наш. На чем стоит этот дом? Ну, здесь я определил 6 основных базовых элементов. Это духовности, человеческий капитал, человеческая цивилизация, сегодня обсуждаем предмет в целом. Научно-техническая революция, где все лауреаты в основном Нобелевских премий находятся. Экология, освоение космоса, безопасность и экономика, мощь. Вот на все наши проблемы входит в этих сфер. И вот 6 крупных кластерных подходов. Теперь давайте начнем в 2 словах, коротко, тезисно я пройдусь, духовности. Да, действительно, одной из главных причин кризиса, я считаю, является это потеря духовности. Вот сегодня, выступая, молодой человек с Португалии сказал, европейская цивилизация и так далее. Если идти историю, никто не спорит, Европа очень развитое государство. 6-10 век вся цивилизация на Востоке была. Это Аль-Фараби, это Ибн Син, это Улугбек и так далее. И философия, математика, медицина на Востоке развивался. Тогда как раз в европейских странах междоусобные войны были. Европа не развитая была абсолютно. Пожалуйста, историю посмотреть, если. Ну, мир не стоит на месте. Вот я возвращаюсь вас к Лондонской Олимпиаде. Если кто внимательно смотрел Лондонскую Олимпиаду, в течение 4 часов показывали, как Великобритания совместно с европейским государством развивался последние 500 лет вот так бурно. Конечно, после пришли умы мира, это Фарадей, Эйнштейн и другие, Маркс, Гегель и так далее. И цивилизация ушло. Мы потеряли в какой-то степени, можно сказать. И Китай, первый бумаг, который изобрел, тоже вниз ушел. Поэтому вот первый базовый элемент духовности, на основе этого мы сейчас разработали новый кластер духовный в Евразийском центре. Это называется создание духовно-технологического кластера Туркестанская долина. Путь гуманизации общества. Именно в Евразийском центре. Возвращаясь к нашей духовности, истории. История многовековая. Пусть лидеры других государств серьезно думают, когда говорят. Казахов и мусульманских стран. И этот проект отдельно, 6 кластеров здесь имеется, духовный кластер, технологический кластер, кластер новый аул, туризма, логистика. Я не буду говорить об этом, просто такой проект есть, который, я надеюсь, в ближайшем будущем будет как-то полезным. Далее, возвращайтесь в этот дом. Вот научно-техническая революция. Да, кризис будет продолжаться по разным прогнозам, хотя бы до 2020 года. Почему? Потому что идет сейчас смена технологических укладов. Формируется развитым государством 6-й технологический уклад. Нанотехнология, биотехнология, генная инженерия, информационно-коммуникационная технология, космическая технология. Все умы заняты этим. Где-то к 2025 году уже формируется основа нового технологического уклада ВВП, тогда бурное развитие будет уже. И то, если не будет войны, ядерных конфликтов и так далее. Опять возвращаем к человеческому фактору. Экология. 2 проблемы. ООН недавно осуждался, это потепление климата и выброс газов. Оба проблемы сами США, Китай, Россия не соблюдаются, можно сказать. Освоение космоса это как раз новые открытия там появятся, начиная от телепортации атомов и так далее, и так далее. Даже до сих пор нет регламентов космического регулирования, регламентов нет освоения космоса. Этим надо заняться, надо же. Космического мусора сколько? И так далее. Безопасность. Безопасность где-то 15 видов безопасности здесь. Пороговых значений этих безопасностей не соблюдается в мире. Хотя они имеются. И экономика мощь. Здесь один вопрос мы разрешили. В плане того, таблицу дайте. Дальше. Вот этот вопрос. Наш президент говорил во время кризиса, один из первых, надо создать новую мировую валюту. Это означает какой-то новый регулятор. Мы вот выработали такой регулятор. Это соотношение вашей мощности, энергетики, как говорил Роберт Хапман, соотношение мощности к валюте Соединенных Штатов, России, как хотите, рубля, тенге, и привязать мощностью к валюте. Вот сейчас мы знаем, сколько потребляется нашей энергии. В каждом доме знает, сколько платит. Государство знает, сколько производит, сколько потребляет. В Африке ватт, в Америке киловатт, везде одинаковые, сопоставимые значения. Вот почему хотя бы на первых порах такого регулятора не подойти, мировому регулированию. Тогда же Америка не будет выпускать 12 разов денег, валют, чем товарное потребление. Конечно, кризис будет. А в советское время определенный баланс был между этими величинами. И следующий. Вот здесь показана модель глобальной системы управления регулируемым мировым процессом. Вот мы думаем путем математического моделирования выйти на эти регуляторы. В этом плане сейчас мы работаем и математиками, и кибернетиками, думаем. Дальше как? Следующий слайд. Ну, здесь, конечно, предлагается, вы сами знаете, стратегия в 2015 году он заканчивается, новая стратегия вырабатывается цивилизационного, переход в постиндустриальный мир цивилизации. Поэтому нужно все-таки реформировать. Раз мы говорим, сознание реформирует цивилизацию, в целом идти новую цивилизацию. Надо реформы начинать, надо таких мировых организаций. Вот наше предложение. Если будет полезным, я думаю, можно было бы использовать. И мы считаем, все-таки новая парадигма перспектив развития в целом мировой цивилизации, мировой экономики связана прежде всего с формированием инновационной экономики, постиндустриальной цивилизации. Иначе я так назвал инновационизмом. Все основано будет на инновации. Прежде всего, конечно, на новых знаниях, новой высокой технологии, конкурентоспособность человеческого капитала. И, конечно, основываться надо все-таки на духовности, на обновлении системы ценностей. Все-таки обратить внимание к конкретному человеку. Если мы найдем выход, уровень жизни, в целом условия работы и так далее конкретного человека, тогда, я думаю, это будет цивилизация. Большое спасибо.
Thank you very, very much. We heard very interesting two presentations, and I'd like just to start in guiding the people. We are interested to hear question and answers session. I would start just by introducing myself because my name was omitted from the list of participants, and I'm a professor at Tel Aviv University Emeritus. I was heading the Center for Business and the Environment. My area is finance and risk management. In parallel to this, over the last almost 5 decades, besides teaching in many universities around the world, I've been working in economics in practice, established many businesses in a variety of areas. And in recent years, I'm also financing most of the NGOs in Israel, and I'm working in I established a center for rebooting and prosperity. And prosperity means not only economic prosperity, but also prosperity in all dimensions that I'll mention it in a minute. I would like to set up the topics for the discussion that we should like to hear here. You see, in Alice in Wonderland, there is this question. Alice is asking for the way, and the cat says, if you don't want where you like to go to, you'll reach it. You'll reach that place. So if we don't know where we like to go to, we shall reach it. And I think that, and I can tell you what we shall reach, because most probably the crisis will develop to such an extent that humanity probably is at a major risk. And so we have to question what happens. And since this session is focusing on economics, we should look at it. You see, our economic system is still based on old ideas that were fitting the industrial revolution, let's say, which occurred some 200 years ago. And during the last 4 decades or 5 decades, we are moving fast into a new economy and a new world, and we haven't adjusted with new technologies, and we have not adjusted the principles. So let's examine the principles of the old industrial economy. It's run by the capitalistic system. The capitalistic system assumes that each is an interesting theory and a beautiful theory, as a matter of fact. It goes by the assumption that each player in the market tries to maximize her or his material wealth. This goal creates supply and demand. This creates a set of prices, which is determined automatically. And this leads to an automatic allocation of all the resources and all the products and services. Not only that it's automatic, but the beauty of the system is that it is the optimal allocation of resources and all the products and services that we manufacture and produce. So the question is, what did go wrong in this model? Because now we complain that something is non-optimal here. So there is a problem here. There are a few things that really disturb the capitalistic system from reaching a global optimum. First of all, the only focus is on economic values, on material values. So really what happens is that the entire system serves the economy. However, the economy, in my opinion, should serve the values of humanity. So it should be a tool to serve the humanity and not the goal of humanity. And because of that, we reached a situation where we destroyed the society and we destroyed environment, and we are destroying it at a very high speed now. We are consuming already 50% more than what the ecological environment can offer us in a sustainable way. And there is no way that one creature, human beings, will dominate the entire planet. Because in such a planet where we destroy all the other species, only 2 types of species will survive. First of all, those that we use for food or that are responsible for our existence. and on the other hand, those that eat us in the food chain. So only these two will survive. And it's just a question of time until either we run out of the resources that we need, the food that we need, let's say, or that our enemies will destroy us. There is no way that one species will dominate the world. So that's a rule of nature. So there is a major risk unless we change the rules. So what's wrong with a capitalistic system and what should be done in order to correct it? First of all, there is an assumption in capitalistic system, there is an assumption of competition. And if we don't have competition and we have concentration of power, then we lose diversity and it creates a problem to the system. The pricing system is biased, and therefore the whole allocation is biased. So a concentration of power is wrong. The second thing is that all of us, we own jointly. We are very rich because we have what we call the common property, which is the natural values around us, the beauty of nature, cultural values, water, air, all kinds of things that we own jointly in the world. And somehow they are not represented in the supply and demand, and therefore they do not participate in the price setting. For example, there are still countries that are suffering from a terrible shortage of water, let's say, and water is free. You don't pay for it. And if you do pay, it covers only the cost of pumping and the cost of transferring the water. It doesn't represent the real value of water. We cannot survive even for a few days without water. Okay? So things like the common is not priced properly. And then there are issues of externalities, because there are organizations and bodies, and actually each of us can be in that situation, that we do something or we avoid doing something, and by that we affect everybody else, but we don't pay the price for that. We are not responsible for that. Somebody else is paying for it. For example, if we manufacture electricity, we make electricity by burning oil, we pollute the air, and everybody is suffering from health issues, and the properties are being damaged because of acidic rain or whatever. But the electric company doesn't pay for it. This is an externality. Somebody else is paying it. So because of these reasons, we have to change and we have to modify capitalism. We have to move to a new economic. We have to extend the rule. The first thing, we have to think about the goal. The goal should be multidimensional, not only just economics. It should include, I call it ESEC, you know, the economy. We should think about the economy. We should think about the society. Yes, we should think about the environment, and we should think about what my friend defined as consciousness, let's say, or ethical values and other values. So all these things have to be served by the economy. Okay, so we have to develop a multidimensional scope and a target. So this creates a big problem, and I think this should be the major discussion, because unless we discuss these issues, I don't have the answers. I have many questions. Questions are very good. When you say something with a question mark at the end, it opens opportunities, it opens ways. When you have an answer, you put an exclamation mark and you close all the possibilities. You close, you don't let other possibilities come into the discussion. So I pose many questions. You see, the major issue is the leaders, let's say, they have to have a dashboard with many dials showing all these things, you know, the economy, the environment, the society, whatever. And it's very complicated. It's like a huge dashboard of an aircraft. You've probably seen those things. And we have to find ways how to simplify this and how to measure in a weighted way, sort of, all these elements, because otherwise they are not priced properly. And both speakers were mentioning this issue a minute ago, that we don't know the right prices and the right measures. For example, a key parameter or a key measure that should be used is how to measure the profitability of an investment. Because as long as all the financial institutions are using the traditional yield measurement and they do not consider the other elements, so how can they invest in something that is not being measured? You cannot manage something that is not being measured. In order to be able to manage something, you have to measure first. Okay? So this is the issue that we are facing, how to define the measures. I mentioned yesterday in one of the discussions that I was involved in solving the climate change issue in the world. In 2006, I'll repeat this for the sake of those guys that didn't attend that session. In 2005 or 6, came up a very important report, the Stern Report. The Stern Report discussed the results of climate change. They estimated that the current cost is something like between 5 to 25% of global GDP every year. And they also estimated that it takes 2% of global GDP every year to do things to prevent it, to prevent climate change. It's a huge amount of money because my mind is thinking very practically. Say 2% of global GDP, it was like something like $1.5 trillion a year. Enormous amount. 1 trillion, if you put $1 one on top of the other lying, it will reach to the moon. Okay? 300,000 kilometers. Okay, that's 1 trillion. 1 billion is only 300 kilometers where low satellites are moving. 300 meters is to be a millionaire. Okay? So just to keep things, you know, people don't think about those scales. So $1.5 trillion is an awful lot of money. And I said, where can I get it? To solve the problem of climate change. I'll save the world, okay? And I have friends, you know, I'm working in the insurance area, and I discuss things with the managers, the CEOs, and the chairpersons of the largest insurance companies in the world. They manage totally, mainly through the pension funds, they manage a huge portfolio of about $80 trillion, and they have to reinvest every year about $8 trillion roughly out of it. So 1.5 out of 8 is not a big problem. So they started working on a treaty, which is called the PSI Treaty, Principles for Sustainable Insurance. And finally, 2 years ago, at the same week that we had the UN summit in Rio, the Rio +20, I was a member of that of the Israeli delegation there. But there were a lot of talking. But on the other side of Rio, at the same week, not coincidentally, there was a meeting of the summit of the insurance and pension industry. And at that time, there was a signatory ceremony of the treaty finally. I was invited to be the keynote speaker there. And I was very happy on that moment because quarter of the insurance money in the world signed to it. And by now already 50% of the money have signed to it. But still they have a problem because they don't have the measure, how to measure their success. They can invest the money for long term, but they have to bring good return to their to the pensioners that their money is being invested. And their question is, how do we, if we do it in an environmental project that prevents climate change, how is it measured? It doesn't go into the calculation. So this is the main issue, and I would like to suggest that we'll do that. As long as you see, and we have to change the way of thinking, because somebody that holds a hammer in his hand and works all the day and the week and the year with the hammer, everything in his or her life looks like a nail. And it cannot see other solutions. The only way is to make solutions. You see, the companies are divided into three types. Those that are adaptive, that they just adapt to the technologies that were developed by somebody else. Those that are generative, those create new technologies and create new ideas. Those that are game changers, that try to change the rules and create new, completely new environments. I'm working with companies and to make them to be game changers through the institute that we founded. And we discovered that there is a fourth type of an organization. The fourth type is also a game changer, but a game changer does not continue to be a game changer unless the process of game changing continues. Because once you change the paradigm, you face a new paradigm again. That's the reason why yesterday, I think one of the friends mentioned yesterday the question, how come we're talking about paradigm change for 40 years and nothing seems to change? Things do change, but the paradigms have to change all the time. So it's a complex thing. We have to find a new rule of game. We have to find a very cooperative game, because now we are jointly dependent, and we have to find a cooperative game. There is a small company in Israel, they are game changers. They invented a new game, like a Monopoly, a table game. 3-4 people play it. You have a dice, you make a few steps, you have to establish businesses, all kinds of things as a game. It takes them 10 minutes. The players discover that by cooperation with others, they reach their goal faster, while also the others are reaching their goals. It's a very cooperative game, very educational game. We are educated from the beginning to be competitive. At school, we are competitive. In sports, we are competitive, and we don't have cooperative games. Probably one of the changes will be cooperation. So I think I opened a big area for questions, and please reintroduce yourself. And
Yes, my name is Tibor Tóth. I am Executive Secretary Emeritus, Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization. I'm coming from a different angle, but I would like to address the issue of internalizing the externalities. So both of you mentioned the optimal allocation of resources. You mentioned that there is a need at the same time to regulate activities which are externalities. I think you put the right label to it. I'm coming to it from a different angle. 45 years of my career I spent on trying to limit the unintended consequences of technological progress. Nuclear, biotechnology, engineering, and chemical industry. So the question is how much we can spend even if we come to the end of the sequencing mentioned by Robert. Can we spend the 2% of the GDP on the top of the other expenditures, public health, security, and so on? My feeling is that unless we put a real price to these externalities, at the same time we move in an incremental way. Yes, it will have to be a combination of regulation and internalization of the externalities. But unless there is a price on the carbon, there is a price on the nuclear issues, on the atom, to give you one example. Unless there is a price, giving another example, there is biotechnology-related research. It might lead to new agents which, if they are released accidentally, will create a chaos and calamities where Ebola is dwarfed compared to that. So we have to put a price on these negative externalities. And yes, we have to incrementally move to let market players pay for the positive externalities. So it cannot be that subsidization is going on in a way where the optimal allocation of these resources is disturbed. I very much believe that while we are trying to change the game, I don't think that we will quickly change this basic rule of the optimal allocation of resources. So we better internalize the externalities, we do it incrementally, and we have a better mix of regulation and internalization of externalities.
Can I ask if you can elaborate a bit, who will determine it?
I started yesterday 2 presentations with saying we have to model, we have to measure, and then we have to mitigate. And if you take my own area of specialty like nuclear issues, right now there is no price, for example, on the atom. So while we are trying to move to a low carbon world, we are calling nuclear technology as non-carbon technology. And by being very well intended, we are creating, for example, huge stockpiles of spent fuel. We will be creating in the next 30, 50 years something like potentially 1,000 tons of reprocessed plutonium per year. This is 250,000 equivalent of a Hiroshima warhead. And we are trying to handle it safely, in a secure way, and preventing terrorism. So these are the type of issues where we have to deal with the unintended consequences. We have to model, measure, and we have to mitigate, but it's not easy. I cannot answer your question, but we have to move there.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you.
Let's take a few questions before we answer, okay?
Gary Jacobs. Very interesting discussion, and all 3 presentations were quite varied and complementary to each other, all of them interesting. This session was originally conceived as one of 4 sessions looking at the resources available for a new paradigm. I think, and so we've got economic in here, we've got social, we've got natural and human. I think actually the presentations, which I thought were superb, have really gone to the session tomorrow, which is, especially yours, was really, well, on the theory and addressing the need for fundamental, which is fine. You've put it on the table, and I hope we'll have more time to discuss it, not only today but tomorrow. And both of them, because yours is a wider, integrated perspective. But I'd like to come back to the question which Robert, with good reason, dismissed when he started by saying, we shouldn't, is there enough money? And I think because the intention of this session in a wider scheme was to conceive, and I think, Yehudi, you gave one answer to that question. Tibor, you gave another very interesting answer to that question at all. I'd like to look at the money part of this, not because it's the most important or more important than what's been put on the table, but because it was the intention that we look at that quite squarely in this session so we can build on it, not only in this conference, but in the subsequent conferences. So just a few quick comments. In my opening plenary remarks, I threw out the figure. I said quite cavalierly, our problem is not a shortage of resources. The world has more than enough resources for a new paradigm. And to illustrate that, I mentioned about $225 trillion in global financial assets. I also said that presently, and this is only an estimate, probably less than 20% of that is going into the real economy. So one answer to the question of is there enough money would be, are there ways in which we can redirect more of those funds into the real economy? And I think the answer is obviously yes. There are many different proposals. One of them would be a tax on short-term investments, speculative investments, which reduce the incentive for money to be floating around the world the way it is today. Another would be to change the balance strictly through policy measures, not impacting on the principles of economy by which we function. But right now, the tax systems are all highly biased towards capital investment and energy-intensive investment. And if we price the energy resources, as several of you have already mentioned, at their real value, and if we price the pollution at its real value, and if we remove or reduce the tax on human labor, the payroll tax, we will automatically change investment decisions and redirect more of that money into productive investments which have multiplier effects. I think many of you are already familiar with it, but I thought it's important that we get this on the table as part of this session. Finally, I'd like to go a little beyond that and ask a more fundamental question of what is money and how much money can we create and what is the real backing for money? Are we really limited in our capacity as a global community to create the money that's necessary for the welfare of humanity? I'm putting it as a philosophical question. In 1933 actually, Franklin Roosevelt assumed office as the President of the United States in the middle of the Great Depression and in the middle of the greatest banking crisis, financial crisis that America had ever encountered up until that time. About 6,000 banks had failed. The American people were lining up to withdraw their money from the other banks, which means the rest of the banks would have eventually failed if he hadn't done anything. And he got on the radio and he addressed the people and said, look, what has changed in our country? We have all the productive capacities that we had before the great crash. We have all the rich natural resources. We have all the human capacities and human skills. Fundamentally, what's changed is we have lost confidence in ourselves. We've lost trust in ourselves. And he had a very famous line, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. If you turn that around, the fundamental implication is the amount of money we can create as a society depends on how much confidence we have in our institutions and how much confidence we have in the productive potential of humanity, not only today and in the future. Yehudi mentioned in his comments yesterday that he's involved with the creation of complementary currencies, which is one related component of this. Dr. Sabin mentioned the idea of a world currency as an answer to this, which for many people looks very utopian. I think logically speaking, as you look out into the future, it's the obvious answer, and the question is how we get there. And it's not so far-fetched conceptually, because actually at the time of Bretton Woods, it was considered, even at that time, whether we should have one. So I just wanted to put on the table that I don't think there's a shortage of resources to accomplish what we're doing. We have to look at the policies, implied and explicit policies, and the economic concepts by which we're using the money we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a brief comment. Of course, there is no shortage of money, and because we cannot afford not to do the changes. So there is no choice but to devote the resources. And the second thing, you don't want to create monopoly in production of money. You need diversity. So one international currency will not create the right solution. There should be many currencies, and there should be an exchange between them that makes them the same. Any more questions, please?
Да.
From the public?
Так, время у нас заканчивается, и я просил бы кратко, если кто-то, если хочет, очень минут, там полтора, кратко. Мы перебрали время. Пожалуйста.
Қазақ халқы шыдамды халық қой, енді біздер де бір сөз айтайық. Мына бүгінгі 2 күн өтіп жатқан конференция Әл-Фараби атындағы университеттегі қазақ қоғамы Қазақстан үшін өте маңызды құбылыс болып отыр. Өйткені біз қазақ казгу ғалымдары, мына жерде экономисттер отыр, саясаттанушылар, кешегі экологтар, біз үлкен практикалық үміт күтеміз осы шетел мамандарынан, беделді ғалымдардан. Бірақ кейбір жағдайда конференцияның тематикасы бізден өте алыстау кетіп қалған сияқты. Жерге түссек, мынау үлкен ғаламдық проблемаларды біз бүгін ертең шешпейміз, бірақ дегенмен де Қазақстанның алдында үлкен мәселелер бар. Мысалға экологияға келетін болсақ, бана айтып жатыр, анандай жасау керек. Бірақ мысалға Қазақстанда жылына 30% жер эрозияға ұшырайды екен. Жылына. Сонда осы мәселе ол нағыз экологиялық проблема біз үшін. Жаһандық проблемалар әрине жақсы оны шешкен. Сондықтан осы ғалымдардың бүгінгі форумды пайдаланып, осы нақты ұсыныстарды ертең қорытынды неге шығарса, жақсы болар еді деген сондай ұсынысым бар.
Енді былай жасауға болады, дұрыс айтасыз. Қазір бұл жерде бәрін алып шығу өте қиындау. Ал бірақ нақты ұсыныс болса беріңіздер. Шынында да біз енді глобалды проблема, жаһандану проблемасын қарап отырып, өзімізді ұмытып кетпеуіміз керек қой, дұрыс қой. Бірақ одан да қалып қоймауымыз керек, цивилизация жалпы кетіп жатыр ғой. Сондықтан былай айтқанда, жаңа нақты ұсыныстарыңыз болса беріңіздер.
Маған өте қатты ұнап отыр бүгінгі дискуссия, әсіресе мынау ғаламдық экономикадағы өзгерістер қазіргі болып жатқан, ол бізге міндетті түрде әсер етеді.
Рахмет. Еще есть?
Өзім таныстырмаппын, профессор Сапанов, Шығыстану факультеті казгу.
Рахмет. Так, если еще, пожалуйста, на минуту, так.
Профессор экономики Раушан Дуламбаева, казну имени Аль-Фараби. Здесь очень актуальные проблемы поднимались глобальной экономики, касающиеся всех стран в глобальном мире. Но вот я своего, наверное, коллегу поддержу, что и ваши слова мне понравились, что экономика развивается, все меняется, все постоянно должно меняться. Вот Казахстан как никакая, наверное, частичка и субъект, и как особь, наверное, в структуре, так сильно не получала изменений. Вот она именно изменялась. Казахстан постоянно в изменениях. То есть мы сейчас говорим цена индустриализации, цена капитала, да, экономического, обосновываем, какие средства нужны. Вот Казахстан проходил в своем этапе очень сложные моменты. То есть мы от феодального способа производства сразу перешли на развитые основы, в социалистическую, централизованную индустриальную экономику, где она занимала свою позицию как добывающий сектор. А лет 20 2020 мы переходим на рыночную экономику, формируем парадигму рыночной экономики, и мы формируем сейчас индустриальную экономику. У нас только формируется сама индустриальная экономика. И все проблемы глобальной экономики, они накладываются еще на наши внутренние проблемы. То есть мы формируем, вот у нас формируются задачи, то есть у нас двойная сложность. У нас такие же проблемы экологии, земли, заболеваний, социальных аспектов. И накладывается на то, что у нас база сейчас только формируется. Мы сейчас говорим об инновационной экономике, но сама инновационная экономика, она у нас далека. То есть мы формируем индустриальный сектор для того, чтобы экономика могла инновировать. То есть нужны субъекты элементарно, которые будут инновировать, развивать инновации. И я поддерживаю вот точку зрения, вот здесь вот сказали очень хорошо, что сегодня, наверное, проблема даже не в денежных ресурсах. Вера нужна, и сама база нужна, она есть. Наверное, актуальность и для Казахстана сегодня важна именно как правильно распределять ресурсы. Денег много, нефти много в Казахстане. А как распределить? Цену можно определить, цену мы считаем, у нас есть институты, которые занимаются, сколько это будет стоить для Казахстана. И проблема сегодня, вот для Казахстана актуальна, эффективное распределение наших финансовых людских ресурсов. Экономический капитал формируется из вот особенностей развития Казахстана. Сегодняшние ваши высказывания очень прекрасные были доклады, прекрасные были вопросы. Пока восклицательных знаков нету, мы точки не ставим. И пока нету этих восклицательных знаков, есть вопросы для нас, мы, наверное, будем жить и развиваться, и перенимать ваш опыт, и ваши проблемы уже будем решать с точки зрения наших особенностей казахстанской экономики. Большое вам спасибо.
Спасибо. Роберт, вы хотите что-то сказать?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, there are many comments that could be made. I'll stick to a couple. One of the questions that was raised is what's wrong with the macroeconomics that are practiced today. Well, I have a very quick answer to that question. The standard economic model describes an economy with one agent and infinite resources. It's a beautiful economy, but it doesn't correspond at all to the world in which we live. We talked about money as a limit. A very quick comment is that when the United States needed some number of trillions of dollars to bail out Wall Street, the money was there, could be created. We've chosen to build institutions that put the creation of money in the hands of commercial banks, and commercial banks will only give credit to those who can produce a return on that money. That's not a necessary institution. And so money is not like a physical good that is subject to the first law of thermodynamics. Money is essentially trust or debt, and it can be expanded within the bounds of imposed by balance sheets, basically. What else can I say about that? The idea of trying to price in externalities. It's a nice idea, but what is the cost of an existential threat? What price do we put on that? Which is what climate change is. In theory, within the standard economic model, trying to get right prices sounds like the right thing to do, but in practical terms, I don't think it's there. And furthermore, as soon as you try and get, in some sense, right prices with a carbon tax, then what you do, or with a price on water, what you end up doing is denying access to water to people without income, and you deny access to people who need to be motive by limiting their access to hydrocarbon fuel. And so you've created perhaps an exacerbation to an already very skewed income distribution by trying to use prices in the way that's suggested. I could go on for a long time, but I'll leave it there.
Okay. Thank you. I just one brief comment. You know, what you mentioned about Kazakhstan and the problems that you face, look at it in a different way. I'm an expert on risk management. Most people treat risks as a threat, as something bad. Without the risks, there are no opportunities. Look at this, that you are blessed in having so many problems, because it forces you to solve these problems and to make a progress. So it's a blessing to have problems, real problems and urgent problems that has to be addressed. So it's the problem is a challenge that creates change. It's an optimistic way of looking at things. We'd like to conclude the meeting. Thank you very, very much for the participation, and maybe my friends would like to...
Коллеги, да, Казахстан богатая страна. По богатству мы занимаем 8-е и 9-е место мира, ресурсным богатством. Конечно, мы должны интеллектуально умы, производственные умы, человеческий потенциал развивать. Без этого никак нельзя. Ну, уважаемые коллеги, да, сегодня было интересное обсуждение проблем. Мы даже за рамки в целом вышли, потому что экономика базис. Почему я говорю? Потому что читать надо Маркса. Нарушен воспроизводственный процесс в целом мире. А когда воспроизводственный процесс, цикл нарушается, вот все это получается диспропорция. Потом второе. Да, я считаю, все-таки я тоже в какой-то степени политиком был. Я 4-кратный депутат парламента Казахстана был. Все-таки считаю, в мире политика давит над экономикой, над всеми. Политика и богатство. Вот от чего мы немножко должны статус понизить, иначе говоря. Побольше надо ученых читать, ученых слушать надо. Приоритет, статус ученым надо дать. Тогда, я думаю, больше будет, лучше будет. Теперь следующий такой вопрос. Все-таки правильно здесь поднимали наши коллеги. Все-таки все имеет свою цену. Поэтому вот пороговые значения в разных моментах надо, вот это надо соблюдать. Пороговые значения. Допустим, даже возьмем крупные вещи, здравоохранение. Есть нормативы мировой, как здравоохранение общества. Да, ВОЗа. 6% должно быть ВВП. Самый минимум, что в государстве здоровье был. Но страны СНГ низкие очень. И так далее, и так далее. Многие, в общем, надо уделять внимание на человека. Через человека все делается. Вот это один из важных вопросов. В целом, то, что сегодня было сказано, я не хочу повторяться, мы изложим, постараемся наши коллеги изложить там, где выводы будут делаться, и поставим, конечно, много вопросов, наверное, да, чем ответов. Но, тем не менее, ученые должны предвидеть, сказать, высказаться, достучаться в какой-то степени. Если вот так вокруг разговора мы останемся, ничего не выйдет. Поэтому везде, видимо, именно вот в таком кризисное время удел вот, на ученого, самая огромная роль ученого. Если мы действительно, потому что ученый предвидит через 50, через 100 лет, что будет, только ученый может предвидеть. Поэтому я хочу сказать, что мы будем, конечно, об этом говорить везде. Заключая, я хочу сіздердің барлықтарыңызға рахмет айтқым келеді. Себебі, я вижу, многие хотели бы выступить. Көбісі айтқысы келіп отыр, іштер жанып отыр бәрі. Сондықтан ұсыныстарды беріңіздер, ары қарай жұмысымызды жалғастырайық. Большое вам спасибо.